are ran by multiple clubs, not just one. One of the issues that I see on campus is that all of the clubs are running segregated events, that not all student involvement is unified. And I believe that with my leadership experience, I will be able to unify the school.
Thank you. My second question is, in recent years, there has been much discussion among students and faculty concerning the safety of students of color on campus and the ability for a student activist group to protest. As AS president, how will you advocate for SFSU students in this issue? I will allow JC Hernandez to answer first.
So, you talked about the safety of colored people on campus and the amount of tension between groups on campus. One of the things that I really want to do is create a forum where all of our community leaders can get together, as well as club leaders and students that have issues, and basically put them in the same room so that we can squash anything that is coming up. I'm also currently listening to Jacqueline Foley, our current ASI president. She has a lot of good issues and things that she's working on now that I plan to carry on into the next presidency, which is including some of the topics that we talked about.
Thank you. Candidate Jason Brown?
Okay, well, I definitely think safety is a big issue. I heard about some things that have happened recently that are kind of disturbing and make me feel unsafe, and I think a lot of students. So I think we have to be more careful and make sure to continue to educate people. I'm pretty happy that the university sends out emails, kind of like letting people know what's going on. I think that system is working fairly well, but we can also implement education programs to educate people on campus, kind of like we educate about sexual harassment and stuff. Because as tedious as the sexual harassment training was, I think it was 3 hours of my time, it actually helped because it forced me to do that. So I think we could do something possibly for people of color and all kinds of students, including other groups like LGBTQIAA, and other groups, to make sure that there's education out there promoting their awareness of how to be safe on campus. And then about protesting, I don't think there should ever be any limits on protesting, except don't be violent. But other than that, anyone should be able to protest as much as they want, whenever they want on campus, in my personal opinion.
Thank you. So my third question is, if elected, what is your vision for Associated Students? I will allow candidate Jason Brown to answer first.
My vision is a glitter explosion. I'm sorry, that's irrelevant. So Associated Students is an awesome place for people like me and other people involved to get involved in the campus life here and maybe get a taste of what it would be like to be in this kind of role after school too, so to get some real experience. And I know that's an exciting aspect for me personally. I would like Associated Students to continue a lot in the same way it is, except I would definitely want more awareness promoted, like a previous candidate had mentioned, making sure people know about Associated Students, because when I first got to school here, I didn't know about the opportunities. I had to pursue them myself, much like internships, scholarships. Nothing is handed to us easily. If you want something cool, you have to research it and find it and get it. So I think we could do a better job of spreading awareness about Associated Students so more people could get involved. And then the program will be shaped according to people involved. So it'll represent the students better.
Thank you. My third question is, oh, so sorry about that. You may go now.
You're fine, you're fine. Thank you. As Chief Executive Officer of an $8 million corporation and President and Chair of the Board of Directors, my plan and vision for SFSU would to change the perspective of the students. We need to be unified. We need to have more involvement in all of our activities on campus. I believe that my vision would create more intercommunication. What I see is more talking among students and less whispering. There is a lot of whispering, there is a lot of people talking behind each other's backs, and there's really no need for it. You're in a public school, you feel me? We need to spread awareness that honesty is the best thing on campus. I believe that there is a lot of shadiness, there's a lot of lack of transparency on not only the administration side, but the students within each other that have issues. You know, there are a lot of issues on campus that we must face together, and I think that if we did it united as one student body rather than segregated among racial lines or club lines, I think that we would be able to face and fix a lot of the campus issues we have.
Thank you. And my last question is, the CSU Board of Trustees voted and approved for a proposal that increased undergraduate tuition by $270 for 2017 and 2018 year, and it is a recurring issue and concern for students that tuition will continue to go up. As ANEX president, what is your position on this issue, and how will you advocate for SFOC students? I will allow JC Hernandez to go first.
Thank you, Jenna. Tuition hikes. Nobody likes paying more money for school, right? As president, if I'm elected, I will do everything in my power to sit on the CCSA board that talks about tuition hikes, and I will advocate on lowering the hike, if not getting rid of it at all. It would take a lot of collaboration and a lot of effort on my part, which I am willing to give. However, if us as students do not stand behind the president, whomever is elected, the tuition hike will not go away. Thank you.
Jason Brown,
Yes, I think that the tuition should be based on income. So if you make a certain amount of money, your tuition should be based on that, like a sliding scale. So people with very low or no income obviously shouldn't be paying, or at least not very much. And people who have more income, or their family has more income, they should pay more because they can. This is a state school. Now, if we don't have affordable rates and people can't come to school because of money, then where are they going to go to school to get a bachelor's degree? This is the option for bachelors for people like myself who are not loaded with money. So, yeah, I think we should do sliding scale personally, and I would definitely advocate for that if I had the opportunity.
Thank you. So I will now take a Q&A from the audience. Yes. If you have a question for both candidates, then can you state that? And if you have a question for one individual candidate, can you also state that?
I have a question for both candidates. First of all, I want to thank you both for taking the initiative to run and recognize that there are people who didn't qualify for president, and that you two are kind of the cream of our crop. The position you're campaigning for is a weighty one. Our current president, Jackie Foley, dedicated a hell of a lot of time to her position, has done a wonderful job. What demands are there on your time away from associate students, and how will you dedicate a great deal of time to this position as it's required?
So, before I decided to run for ASI president, I was a breathe advocate here on campus. I went around and I helped people that were fighting nicotine addiction and drug addiction on campus and helping them get the resources that they need. Today is National Kick Butts Day. There's an event out in the quad, and I was supposed to MC that event because of me being one of the leaders for the Breathe Advocacy group. When I decided to run, I decided to step down from Breathe because I knew that campaigning and being president was going to take so much of my time. I am fully devoted to this. I will put in as much time as Jacqueline has put in, if not more. Right now, I'm taking 16 units, and like I said, I just resigned from Breathe Advocacy, so I do have a lot of time on my hands to go in and work very hard for the students. As a second point, next year with my unit load and being associated student president, if I'm elected as associated student president, all of my spare time will be going to that.
Okay, and thank you. For me, most of my time is spent studying, going to classes, and internship. Those are my main commitments. Right now I'm an intern at the mayor's office. And I have one other thing on the side, and that is my music career, so I kind of do shows 4 times a year. But it's not too time consuming, but when the shows come around, it takes a bit of time. But other than that, I have time to commit to this. And my only interest is, well, I would say one of my primary interests will be associated students if I'm elected. So it'll be up there on the top of my priorities with time, and I will make the time necessary to spend on it. And I also have my boyfriend that I have to give a little time to, and my dog.
Do we have other questions from the audience?
Mary Fitzgerald, was it?
Yes.
Hello, Mary.
Thank you. Hi, you all. I commend you for getting up there and debating each other.
Thank you.
I know sometimes it's very nerve-wracking. So I have a question for the both of you. I was just curious about I know you both mentioned how you're qualified or things you've done out in the community, and I think that's amazing. Could you please share with us what you've done on campus as a change maker to make a difference, especially for marginalized communities? JC, you can go ahead and go first.
Thank you. Like I said before, I'm a transfer student, so I just started in the fall. I actually started in the summer coming to orientation, and they were talking about the forum up here before you had to go get pizza. And actually, while I was up here, I met Emily Hobbs, who is the director of Breathe, and she was the one who convinced me to join the Breathe program and fight for the executive order that the chancellor has put down. So that was my first and foremost changing of the campus, because I had to go out publicly and talk to people, not only using my communication skills as a communications major, but also avoid conflict. You feel me? There's a lot of people that don't want to be approached while smoking. They feel as though they know the rules, and even as a Breathe advocate, I have to learn to recognize that and approach them differently. I feel as though my time as a Breathe advocate over the last 8 months has really made an impact, since so many people are getting help from the health center.
Nice. Okay. I have done absolutely nothing. No, I'm just kidding. I started in the fall too. I was at City College before this. I'm in were you City College? Sorry. I shouldn't ask questions, it's probably against the rules, but okay, good. So the one thing that I've done, I've given a free concert here that people came to, and I got to spread some education about jazz, but that isn't necessarily political change, but it was something I did here. The other thing, I'm a President's Fellow, SFSU President's Fellow, and we're learning a lot about, about tolerance, about unconscious bias, and we're working together through those issues, trying to understand each other better as a campus. So our group is really working through a lot of racial and class and privilege issues. So other than that, this is my first official political involvement on campus.
I'd like to also add that I've seen Jason as well, we've participated in the walkouts. So the violence towards marginalized people, right? People of color, people of sexuality, people of other things. We've participated in the walkouts. I think I've seen you at one of them. But that's about it too.
I tend to walk out of every class. I'm just
Thank you. One more question, is that okay?
Yes.
So the other question I have is in regards to recent controversy or issue around President Wong. I don't know if you all are aware, but last semester, and a continuing issue on campus are hateful messages to our Muslim, Arab, Palestinian students. And one of the things that President Wong shared was a statement that implied that he was in support of or was okay with Zionist speech and presence on our campus. What are your views on this issue, and how would you respond to this issue if you're elected president, especially specifically regarding President Wong? JC, go ahead.
Okay, I'm prepared. So I have an excerpt from the Golden Gate Express, and this is from Jacqueline Foley on how Wong was treated here. She says, I've experienced horrific, disrespectful, and appalling behavior from administrators on this campus. I have seen cover-ups, dishonesty, and a critical lack of transparency, and have been threatened for speaking up. Foley's statement highlights how Wong and his administration continue to discourage student involvement and activism from various groups on campus. Now, this is a very big issue for me. I do see the disenfranchisement from administration and ASI. If I'm elected, I'm not just going to be a figurehead. If it has to come down to Wong being impeached or he must resign, I will do everything in my power. But as of right now, I believe that campus should be tolerant of everybody. That means that if you're giving hate speech, that you should not be tolerated. You feel me? Tolerance is only given to those who do it peacefully and who do it with good intentions, not for incitation of violence or citation of hate speech, as I would call it. You feel me?
Can
Would you
I
like-
ask a follow-up?
I can clarify it.
Oh, yeah, maybe clarify about all speech being welcome, especially
That's what I'm
basically
saying.
saying,
It's
do you
like,
think that
you
Zionist speech should be welcome on campus?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there is a part of the amendment that says you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, right? I believe that is the situation that we're in. Is people are yelling wolf, and we're a bunch of sheep, and people want to run around and believe that there is people being attacked on campus. You feel me? Like it's a, how do you put it, non sequitur, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I think that President Wong has a great name for a campaign slogan, like, what is wrong with Wong? Something like that. I thought, oh, that'd be good. Anyway, something I was thinking was, like, when is the last time I saw President Wong? Never. When's the last time he talked to me? Never. When's the last time he talked to any of us? I have no idea. So, President Wong is some mystical figure up in the sky. I've seen the next person in charge. I've actually seen her talking to a group of us students, and even seen her on campus, but I've never seen President Wong. Has anyone else? No? Okay. Gosh, I definitely don't think there's room for hate speech. We shouldn't have hate speech. Some people argue hate speech is free speech, and maybe, technically, depending on your perspective, maybe it is, but I don't think we should have people saying things about people groups that are racist or xenophobic, and especially around Islam. It's a very misunderstood group right now in America because a lot of what we hear is negative about Islam, and we don't understand it because we don't know enough people from that group, I guess. My boyfriend is from a Muslim country, and he isn't Muslim himself, but the people there are just like us, you know, they just happen to have that religion, you know, a lot of similarities. So anyway, I would promote more understanding and more, yeah, I don't want to say tolerance because it sounds like tolerance can be almost a bad word, like tolerating something you don't like, but maybe more acceptance and understanding.
Thank you. I have one follow-up question for Jason. Is that okay, Jordan? Okay, so you mentioned Islam, which reminded me something about religion, which I know some of us hold very near and dear to our hearts. I noticed on your Facebook you have a picture that says you're a Reformed Christian.
Recovering, yes.
Recovering Christian. So I was just asking if you could share with us what you mean by that, and especially since it kind of implies that a negative connotation towards Christianity.
Absolutely, thank you, because I love sharing about that. I'm not an atheist. What?
It's a comedian, right?
Well, it's not comedian. When I do shows, the show I do is called Recovering Christian. That's the post that you're referring to. I do comedy in my shows too, but I also share a real story and music. But my personal life story, I would identify personally as a recovering Christian. And that's because the kind of Christianity I grew up with was very dogmatic and fundamentalist, and it was homophobic. And that was a really big issue for me, being gay. But yeah, I didn't feel that Christianity worked for me. It didn't give me the benefits that it promised. So I left Christianity and, thank you. I left Christianity and just sort of decided to find my own way and try to use my mind and my feelings and my personal experience to find my way without a deity or religion, because they had betrayed me. In my personal life, those things betrayed me, including my own family, my own parents. So, thank you. In my experience, Christianity was a bad thing, but I know for other people it's not. And it's all your own perspective. But my perspective is, I want nothing to do with Christianity. It's not me. I don't believe in it. There's no proof for it. But then there's also, I'm not saying that there's no God though, or that there isn't something mystical, because there's something mystical about life in general that still can't be completely explained. So I hope that answers that.
Just going off of that real quick, Mike. While we're on the issue of religion, or not the issue, but the topic of religion, I think it would be unfair for him to state his thing and then
Sure, I'm sorry.
mine. No, I feel with what he did. I was a foster kid for 16 years. My mother was deported when I was 7. And I had to go through the entire foster system up and down California through 17 different homes and group homes. And it wasn't until I was 12 years old that the state said, you don't have to go to the church. You don't have to go to the religion of any house that you live in. Because up until then, I had to go to Filipino Buddhist church. I had to go to Filipino Christian church. I had to go to mass. Every single house that I moved to was different. And I quickly learned that everybody has their opinion, everybody has their own differences, and whatever they believe can be true to them. However, I'm going to be tolerant of it. I don't dislike any religion. I believe that everybody has their own thing. And if we start to incite violence over religion or over beliefs of somebody, then we're no better than they are. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Do we have more questions from the audience?
Will you play us a song?
Yes, but it'll cost you 2 rabbit hairs.
Oh,
Just kidding. It's awesome to be here. My name is Kai. I'm representing the San Francisco State Music Department. I have a question for you based on something I read in the New York Times on Sunday.
okay.
Sir Ken Robinson, the teacher of Do Schools Kill Creativity, the famous TED Talk, was asked in an interview if you were the United States Education Secretary, what is the first thing you would do to change the American school system? He said, "What is education for? In my view, it is to enable all students to understand the world around them and the talents within them so that they can become fulfilled individuals and active, compassionate citizens. The proper role of government is to create the best conditions for that to happen." So my question for you is, what role, as whatever status you're running for, what can you do to make that happen? Assuming you agree with that. So I guess my first question is, do you agree with that? And if so, what would you do as president to allow that to happen?
So you're talking about this TED Talk guy. He said, "Do schools create creativity?" Is that right?
The TED Talk is, "Do schools kill creativity?"
Kill creativity. Okay. Yes. No, I understand the question fully. I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that statement that schools kill creativity. I believe that there is a lot of room for creativity in the classroom and on campus. I mean, if you just look at the way ASI markets itself to the students, we have the depot downstairs. We have a lot of programs that are very creative. I think that he is right, though, that the school's purpose is to enable us to understand the world around us, and that was kind of the point that I was getting to earlier when I said we need people to stop whispering and stop making shady comments behind people's back and doing shady transactions and the lack of transparency on campus. I feel as though that if we were all positive and able to understand the world around us, we would not have any of those issues. Do you feel me?
I feel you.
Thank you.
I feel it is.
Do you feel me? Let me answer. My answer, okay. I think I agree with what he said about schools being there to help students explore and become good citizens involved. I can't remember every bit, but it sounds basically like I agree. And then that the government should enable that to happen, I agree with that. And in my role, if I were to be elected president, I would definitely want everyone to feel as comfortable in the learning process as possible. And one of my things is that I have an issue with the desk size in the classes that are very uncomfortable for people like me who are bigger and anyone else who's bigger or taller, and the size of the space on the desk. This may seem minor, but if you're uncomfortable throughout the class, you're not going to be able to learn as much. And I saw an article about it even where someone had looked into it and they argued for bigger desks so people could learn more easily and comfortably. So it's just like making the learning environment friendly and safe, and I think it's a part of that. But that's not the only thing. I mean, I want to make sure that there's not discrimination or people being treated unfairly. Also, we have to not penalize people for, let's say they couldn't get to class and the teacher has a very strict policy on attendance. This has happened to me, where I had a very legitimate reason and yet I was going to be penalized no matter what. They were zero flexibility. You can't have zero flexibility with a student body that tends more to be struggling than, let's say, Harvard or Stanford. We're talking about people who are trying to balance their lives, who've gone through a lot, and may still be going through a lot, and are trying to get their degree. We need some flexibility for people in our situations. A lot of us are in those kinds of situations. And the last thing I wanted to say is, as a musician myself, I was a major in music, but I changed to political science. And I was supporting myself as a musician for a few years, full time. And I was very proud of that. And then the money ran out and the gigs started slowing down and I was forced to do something else. I had no choice. It was, unfortunately, it's like such a tough road for musicians. And I see people majoring in music here today, and I'm like, what is their future going to be like? You know, I bet they have the same dreams I had, or still have to a certain extent, you know, but like, how are they going to make it happen? Yeah, I just find that sad that those of us who are creative artists don't have so many choices. But that's a different thing.
Can I ask one follow-up question?
Yes.
So I appreciate both your responses. It was really great to get perspectives on what you had to say. This semester I've been experiencing I'm going to take my warrior bag off, get a little bit more comfortable.
There you go.
I go to school twice a week, and for the first 3 hours of my school day on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I sit through roughly 3 hours of classes that involve 50 students, passively listening to one professor at the front of the room.
Drawn onto a PowerPoint.
Correct. I was just researching this today on Google. I typed in lecture-based learning pedagogy research, and I get a whole bunch of scientific studies that come up. Most of them are from Europe that prove that this mode of instruction is not effective, and that it's really critical to have an understanding of more engaging pedagogical devices rather than just drumming on. What can you do? This is more a question out of curiosity, but what could you do in your position as student president to address what is obviously a problem? And it relates to the first question too, because we have 50 to 100 students in these classrooms who have their own dreams and ambitions, right? They all have something they want to be when they grow up, yet because of general education requirements, they have to listen to a guy talking about clouds for an hour. Or maybe 20 minutes at a time, and then ask any questions.
Everybody stay silent.
Yeah, and then you just, oh, no questions. Okay, I'll keep going.
Yeah, well, I think the reason I do pretty well in my classes is because I ask questions, and I realize it keeps me awake as well. So, the people who aren't asking questions, I can only imagine they're probably like struggling to stay focused. But if you can speak a little bit too, and ask something and get an answer, it keeps you involved and kind of alert. And not everyone's getting that opportunity because not everyone's comfortable asking questions, or for whatever reason they don't get a chance or something. But I also hate it when, no offense to my professors, but I hate it when I have to do stuff in class groups. I'm just like, because I guess it's maybe an anxiety issue or something, but I just feel like, oh no, I don't want to be disrupted from my current state. But maybe involving the students, however you're going to involve the students, it does keep people involved. Even those group activities I don't really like, at least I stay awake, you know, and I'm like interested and we're talking. But another thing is, I really like that strategy of where the teacher calls out people. And if the teacher did that with everyone, to make sure everyone stayed involved, that could be helpful. Because I think involvement is really important, not just sitting there listening.
So I see this issue in all 4 of the classes I'm taking this semester. I'm enrolled in 16 units, and I'm completing major requirements. So I have literally all communication classes. I have advanced public speaking, I have political communication, I have health communication, and I have leadership communication, which are all roles that will help me if I'm elected. Tonight I have a 4-hour class, once a week, leadership communication, and one of the things that I noticed as a transfer student was that a lot of professors here don't like giving their notes, don't like giving the things that they're helping instruct with, unless it is required by DPRC. And as a disabled student myself at my community college, I was able to get printouts and things, but only because it was mandatory for me. I feel as though if all students had access to that, they would achieve much greater than just copying notes. Because one of the things that I realized is that when you're looking at a PowerPoint and you're just copying down the notes, you're not really listening to whatever the professor is talking about. And a lot of my professors, especially in my 500 level courses, go in depth into what's on the slide, but it's not written on the slide. You feel me? So I think that if we were able to increase the resources viably as ASI president, and with our position, I think that creating those resources so that students have what they need to study more and learn better, rather than trying to change the faculty, because I believe that administration and faculty would really push back against that, because they're all set in their teaching styles. I believe though if we can complement that with more resources so the students have more ability to learn, rather than trying to call for a faculty change or for a change in pedagogy. You feel me?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it a lot.
Anybody else questions?
So if you would like, you two can ask each other questions right now.
Okay.
Well, I thought one question was required, so I did prepare one.
Okay.
About the homeless student issue.
Yeah.
I know that it's been an issue like statewide and at City College and of course SFSU, but I couldn't find any statistics. So do you know if any statistical studies exist? Because I couldn't find any. I was just trying to figure out how many homeless students we actually had.
Okay. So I did my research before coming to the debate, and in the past 3 elections here at SFSU, every single president that has won has ran on the basis of helping homeless students. You feel me? And a lot of the statistics that were there were very general for the
Whole CSE.
yeah, for the whole census, right? And so the way I gauged it was I went out. I went out and I found these homeless students. I go out, I talk to them, I help them carry groceries from the food pantry back to their cars. I help them do multiple things throughout the day. I have a lot of friends that are homeless. And that was one of the things that, one of the reasons why I implemented that into my platform, was because of my interaction with all the homeless students. However, there is, I was told the other day that there is a homelessness club that people can join. There is other resources on campus, and one of the things my best friend, Michael Medina, I don't know if you guys know him, but he's the guy who stays on top. He used to stay on top here with his RX-8, nice little sports car, had a bike chained up to the side of it. Now, he's in a tough spot, and he goes to school here, and he's one of the reasons why I am fighting for the homeless students. Not only that, but he was approached by the dean of housing, was given keys to a UPN apartment, was told that he could stay there till the end of the semester. Signed the papers, had the keys in his hand, and went to class. An hour later, after he had been honest with the person who had given the keys and told them that, hey, my car is parked off campus, I'm a smoker, I smoke off campus, I keep anything that is to be smoked in my car, and I do not put it on campus. By him being honest, an hour later, she showed up to his classroom and asked for the keys back to that housing. That is unacceptable. That is what I believe that people are trying to cover up, the transparency, the shadiness that this administration has. Nonetheless, one step down from the Dean of Housing is going to take a house that was already signed for back from a homeless student. That is injustice. That is unequal. That is why I want to help these homeless students, because they're being marginalized more and more every day, and I've been in their shoes. Now, to answer your question on the numbers, I know personally about 14 to 15 homeless students. About half of them stay in their cars, and the other half are couch surfing illegally on other students' dorms. You feel me? People are supposed to be 2 to a dorm, and there's people in Mary Ward and Mary Park that are living 3 to a dorm, and housing doesn't even know about it. And if that's a security issue, that's a safety issue, that's a fire hazard issue. There are dorms that are empty at this very moment, that if those students that were homeless just had one waiver or one piece of paper, they could live in there until the end of the semester, or until they provided support of financial stability so they could get their own house.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brock.
Do you have a question for me?
I do.
Okay. I don't want to answer. I'm just kidding.
Over the past 3 years, there's been a lot of complaints about President Wong. A lot of the ASI presidents have done what they can, but they've been shut down. Current ASI President Foley stated that she felt threatened by the Associate Vice President of Business Operations, Jay Orndorff, after an encounter, and filed a Title IX case. But she felt that her being a female, she felt that the mistreatment was gender-based. As president, if you are elected, how will you approach Wong, and will you back down, or will you fight for us as students?
Well, I'm going to approach him seductively and see if he succumbs to my charms first. No, I'm just kidding. I do seriously though want to sit down with him because, like I said before, where is he? I mean, I don't even know where he is. I don't know if anyone can talk to him. Does he even come to this campus? I don't know. Maybe he's somewhere here right now in a room somewhere.
Watching us?
Watching us. Oh my God, he probably is right now. So if I die, then you know why. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I really do want to sit down with him and talk with him because I would like to know what he thinks. Because I can't honestly say I do really know. But I know he's been the subject of a lot of controversy. And I know the cover of the last Golden Gate Express said Wong must go or something like that. So I know a lot of people don't support him. But before I officially said I didn't, I would like to talk with him myself too and understand where he's coming from. And the whole Associated Students, work with him, with the Associated Students, to figure out how we can resolve the problem and well, let's see what he really thinks and get that communicated. Or if he really does think something that's controversial that we don't agree with, then I would support getting rid of him as well. So I guess we have to see a little more research, I guess.
So I believe we have the same.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just to continue on Wong just a little bit. Wong's task force for campus climate had 24 members on the board and only 3 student representatives. Do you plan to increase that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're saying the task board?
It's a task force?
Oh, task force,
Yeah,
for
so
what?
It's the task force for campus climate. It's the one that was created in reaction to the Muslim Student Association and SF Hillel.
Oh, yeah. I see, thank you for clarifying that. Yes, I would definitely support more student members on that. I would advocate for that too.
Definitely, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions from the audience?
And then sing and dance first.
We can sing and dance. I'll rap
I
if you
got
want.
rhythm. He's got rap music.
That's just the way it goes. You know what it's like, we know.
Oh my. And now we both lost the election.
We should actually have like a talk show or something, you know? Yeah, on the radio. We should get on SF Radio. See if we can-
Today on JC and Jason.
Right? Anyway, Jordan, anything else you need us to do up here?
No.
Okay, thank you.
We have elections commissioner Jonah.
Well, do you want to do closing statements and then we can leave?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You can go first.
Okay. let me take a look at my closing statement. Forgive me for. Okay, I would like to say that if you vote for me, yes, I care about desks for a variety of reasons, for being better educated, having a more comfortable classroom, being fair to people like me that are fat, for everyone too. So please vote for me. Vote for Jason.
Thank you, Jason. So that we can have an open forum and discussion and intercommunication between all our clubs. That way we can have more involved events. Not only that, but raise attendance in events. That way our events are actually effective. Also, the last issue I want to do is, the last issue I would like to address, if I'm elected president, is create a mentor program for freshmen to lower our freshman dropout rate. And of course, I'll leave you with this. If I'm elected ASI president, I will take into account all student, faculty, staff, and administration input, and be able to file any claims against Wong and his cabinet that may need to be seen and may need to be transparent, and make sure that this main issue for the students is resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. The candidate debate for all executive ended. Please stay tuned for 4 p.m. to hear our representative candidates for our class and colleges. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, cool.